Welcome to the weekend must watch here on Intercut, where we wade our way through the latest in theaters, streaming, and on demand. I am your co-host, Zachary Shevich, and joining me, he was told the cheese here was made by a blind nun in a basement. It's Arturo Zurita.
Thank you, Zach. We are at the end of October. I don't know about you, but you look out your window and people are dressed like there's a convention in town of every which way and sorts. And we've noticed that there will be groups of people who have organized each other to dress in the same costumes. But they think it's a little too childish to wear the same thing that's like in accordance with one another. So you'll see like someone in like a 50s costume and then someone in a very modern costume. And you're like, you guys did not coordinate this at all. And I've seen a lot of people be like,
you want to see
you're
more
going
like
out of your
group
way.
themed costumes?
They clash so much, man. You got different colors working with each other. I was like, you guys could have coordinated this, but that would be a little too childish, Already getting in the costumes to begin with in downtown isn't, but dude, it feels. I don't know. I know we're at that moment where this year, all of the festivals that we've gone to, especially in the latter half, feel like the first time these festivals have come back. I guess that's just the holidays for a lot of people this time around. We're going to be ordering 2 turkeys this year. People are going to have 3 trees, but just no matching costumes. I don't know why it's peeved me so much.
Yeah, I did see some fun couples costumes of people from like doing the costumes from Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Okay, yeah, I've seen.
But I don't know. There've been a few interesting modern costumes. Did you see anybody do Nope costumes? I saw somebody dressed up as
Online.
Ricky Jupe and somebody else as the Cloud.
Yeah, I saw that with the cloud, and then they had like the little horse hanging from like what would be the cloud. I like those. I think those are really, really intriguing, and I think online that there's been some really good ones that match together, and I wanted to see more of those live. That's it.
Right. Which character from Nope would you dress up as? Daniel Kaluuya or the Cloud?
Dang, bro. I'm really big on the cloud, but probably the IMAX camera, the non-electrical IMAX camera. I'd be whirring around. The easiest one, I would be difficult, but the TMZ dude. Just get a helmet, you're set. You're
with
good.
The mirror helmet,
comes with the
that's
mask,
pretty cool.
Comes with everything.
Yeah, you don't even have to have seen the movie. It looks like a cool costume. That's a nice one. So yeah, Halloween is upon us. It's been a spooky month with a lot of horror releases, and maybe you've been celebrating yourself by digging into some horror classics. But we've been celebrating by going to film festivals, because it is, as Art mentioned, that time of year where the big film festivals have gone, and then the regional film festivals pick at the different scraps and pull out some really great films. So Art made his way through some Chicago stuff. I made my way down to Montclair and Philly to catch films as well. So it's been harder for us to find time both to watch the things that were released in October and to discuss them. So I think we're going to try and catch up on a bunch of October releases for this weekend must watch, dive into some of the biggest theater stuff in theaters, stuff on streaming, all the stuff that we missed. But there's also just some like cool stuff we want to show off. It's going to be more of a hang. So I don't know, Art, I know you had some new items to add to your collection behind you that you were going to show off to the Intercuties.
I got a couple of things, some that we've placed orders for now that we have, I guess what would be early Black Friday shopping, but I really like the packaging on a lot of this A24 stuff. Obviously, it being one of my favorite movies, I had to go out of my way to go get, I forget which camera this is, Marcel the Shell, and beautiful 4K packaging. And I really like what they've been doing with it. It looks very Criterion-ish with all the little markings that they have. It's not. It's just Marcel the Shell. But it reminded me a lot of that new Wally one that's going out there that people have been sharing, which I also think looks really cool. That they just released for the Criterion collection. I think it's one of their first animations. And obviously I know this is considered split with it being a family.
First Pixar, at least, I think, on Criterion. Yeah.
First Pixar, yeah, for sure. And I think in terms of features, they might have some shorts there that are animated. But them also switching to 4K and Criterion, I'm really happy that they're doing a lot of more 4Ks for A24 as well. So I would highly recommend this movie. Would highly recommend this beautiful looking DVD that comes with it. Obviously, with that, big pin guy when it comes over there. I've never really collected their mugs. I'm a big mug guy. They have I don't know, cookbooks and a bunch of other stuff. You've graced me with a puzzle, but one of the things that I really enjoy is their little pins.
Character pins, right?
You can see right there. Yeah, this one's Ada from Lamb. I think she looks sick. She got some of the LME colors there. Of course, you got to get Marshall. up in there. Perfect as a pin. This is the Top Gun one. I don't know what. The green.
Oh, Green Knight.
Green
the
Knight.
Green Knight from the Green Knight.
Yeah. The tree, and then obviously Everything Everywhere All at Once. And then somewhere behind me I have the what's some faces? Hereditary and Midsommar are somewhere in the back for the pins.
Yeah.
But
That's
yeah,
one of the
all
cooler things I think A24 does is those character pins. Do you have them
They're
all?
merch, bro.
Do you have them all still in your packaging, or do you like have a board that you've put? Pinned them
Oh
into?
no, I mean those are still in the packaging, but to be honest with you, the other ones are out somewhere. Yeah, the other two are right here. I don't know if you can even see them, but they're pinned against each other on a little thing that I had there. But
Nice.
no, yeah, I think that that's one of the best things that they do, because at that point, like, oh my goodness, I'm already messing up my next one. But
Art down.
the just the ability to be able to, I don't know if you want to call it enhancing the experience and whatnot of a movie. They're Pixar ring it, you know? They're
Right.
the premier independent studio, yet they're doing everything that a big studio does. They sell more merch than Focus Features or any other big studio that isn't allowed to be in the Gotham Awards, but they do. So it's a you know, they get to be indie yet big at the same time.
Exactly. You got to make that hot dog fingers money.
What? Yeah, just make them cool. The other thing, of course, moving on to another collection that are out there is the Fangoria list, which I have been collecting these for the past, definitely over the summer. I've been going to get a lot of the stuff because they have really cool features in terms of what the movies are about. I know the Nope one was really timed for its release, and I love the information it gives you on the Nope thing. Like, the movie just came out. I'll be getting to that. We finished all the special features, and even in the most recent special features, like the final ones for the 4K, they're still missing stuff that the magazine still has. So I would highly, if you are a horror fan, even if not, you're just a fan of film and concerts and such, they get different people to come in these Fangoria stuff. Everybody, I feel, has heard of Fangoria to a certain degree.
Yeah.
They're a little bit more expensive as magazines, but damn, are they worth it. I tell you, as someone who's been collecting a couple of them, this has been the most recent one right here. Obviously, having Michael Myers,
Right.
big release. This came in bent, bro. Luckily, it's okay. But like the box itself was bent. I just dropped it, so I thought I had screwed it up right at the end, right before showing it. But this was one that Alina got me because they did like a whole back issue stuff, and the black phone one was one of the biggest ones that sold out. So going out of
that's
her
the
way
other-
to find it.
That's the other thing that was funny, because Black Phone was a movie that got delayed months and months. And I
Sleeper hit.
remember Fangoria had their hard copy out, and then the movie got delayed a couple more months.
Yeah, and it was crazy because
Ooh,
by
with the
that point,
mask?
people went back and snatched this one up, and it was interesting, you know, because they gave little excerpts of different things, and they're like, it's really difficult to get this guy on there, and they were talking about how they choose different magazines and how they weren't able to go get, like, I don't know if it was Pinhead, it was somebody else that they weren't able to get. Oh, they weren't able to get Texas Chainsaw Massacre. They're like, yeah, they're very iffy on what they give us, and especially the fans, because they're like, are you spoiling? And they're like, sometimes they'll complain about this because they'll be like, what the heck's a black phone? They're like, trust this is going to be a big hit. Everyone complains about the magazine, and then it's the magazine that sells out. So it's just always cool to see, you know, them still continuing the medium that is an actual magazine that you can hold, that there's a
So
whole
have
audience
you-
for there that they sell out.
Have you been subscribed since that Nope issue now?
Yeah, since the Nope issue, you
Nice.
call me a fan.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's a really valuable resource, especially if you are a person who really loves those kinds of. Nice. You got the stack
bro,
developing.
they got the X one, obviously.
Yeah.
So this is what I was telling you right here. This and the Nope one, because that's the Jenna Ortega one. But this and the Nope one, they're the same issue. This is just a special edition one that has the cover. Everything inside is the same, but this is the one that the cover has specifically for Nope. But they both have the same stories. And what I meant about, like, this is something to do with The Weeknd. It's the guy who did the prosthetics for The Weeknd, the Batman, and then also did some horror stuff. So it's like, even if you're not a big horror fan, listening to the makeup artists and different people who have worked on stuff, I think make them definitely worth it. This is the old Halloween Kills one, and it came with a poster, which was fire. This one seems like it's stuck here. Oh no. This last one over here, which was the Candyman issue. So there's plenty to read in all of this, and I think they're worth it. If you want to get more into the making of movies, I would highly recommend checking out Fangoria's bundles. I should start a library, have people over if they wanted to read.
Right.
But it's my second little recommendation. In between, we have
Oh.
This is one that Mama Elomi got us this week, and I didn't even know this was a thing. A Netflix game where it's pretty simple. It's apples to apples. There is one exec in the group, and then everybody else kind of has to pitch a show, and the cards kind of like waver the plot points of what your show's supposed to be. Might play this with the Intercuties at some point.
Is that sanctioned Netflix, or is that
It is, bro. No, they've got everything on here. It's like it's detailed to the max. If it's not, I mean, this is the cleanest counterfeit I've ever seen in my life. But from what I know, yeah, at Netflix, all the stuff's on there. I mean, is it apples to apples? Because they just stole the same premise. It's like the same type of game reskinned. You know how like on apps, it's always like a crazy adventure game and it's just match 3. Every board game has just been the same thing. It's just apples to apples.
I just like that most games are like, okay, you play a wizard or you play a knight, and this is like your Ted Sarandos.
What would you pitch?
Yeah.
There it is, baby. Just beautiful, clean looking steelbook in every sense of the word. It comes in 173, which isn't the full IMAX, but as long as you got yourself a disc, the movie will expand to be the tallest it could possibly be.
Really?
So that just came out. I saw there was still some available, unlike the Top Gun steelbook, which I believe comes out next week, and those are gone. So if you are a big collector like myself, definitely get on the Marshall the Shell one. But that Nope steelbook, because those steelbooks go like crazy. So yeah, this is some of the picks that we've had. Magazines, games, movies, pins. I've still got all those posters. The Till, the Amsterdam, the Batman one you gave me. I have like still not unpacked from New York, dude. But I went up because we were talking about New York last week and how they sold the one that I really wanted. Right. And I see people selling the Till poster for $30 online.
This one?
That poster, bro. It's going for 30.
Interesting. I might have to consider that. Right?
It's an investment.
Because they were just sitting out.
They're just chilling there. So
yeah.
That was a lot of $30.
Yeah, I mean, always fun to add to the growing collection of art and memorabilia and media. I know that's a habit that I was really into for a long time, and then I sort of like purged myself of buying a bunch of stuff, and now I'm like, I kind of have been restarting my collection. You know, going to the stores when I can find them, picking up random VHSs and toys and stuff. It's fun, especially now that we have like a little set to showcase it on. You know,
exactly. That's what it is.
Yeah. Anyway, lots of cool stuff, but we should get into the movies and talk about what we are watching, because there's been a lot since we last had a chance to talk, and
we're still watching Blonde.
Yeah, still trying to get our way through Blonde, but there's some other stuff out there as well, some stuff that's been doing really well at the box office, some stuff that maybe is doing not as well with critics. Let's start it off with probably the biggest movie that we haven't talked about yet on Intercut, and that is Black Adam. The hierarchy of power is changing in the DCU,
Literally.
whichever one. It is the movie that The Rock has been trying to star in for 16 years, I think it is now. 2007 was the first time that they published reports about The Rock trying to be in a Black Adam movie. The superhero landscape has changed a lot since then, but I don't know. This movie feels in a lot of ways like it is trying to be a superhero movie from like maybe 10 years ago. It borrows a lot of elements from, I think, more successful superhero films and integrates them here into its story about a ancient hero who's freed from his earthly tomb to help aid a series of commoners, I guess, and then also engage with the Justice Society. It's a mess of ideas, but audiences have responded mostly favorably. It's got a pretty good Rotten Tomatoes audience score. Art, where are you on Black Adam? With the critics, with the audiences, or somewhere in between?
I feel like most audiences, from the theaters that I've seen, from the theaters that I've been in, and from the posts that I've seen online, they're there for one scene. I don't think they care about the, what is this, 2 hours and 4 minutes that precede the one scene in this movie. I feel most people have already seen it. We're going to skirt around it. For the most part, it's a super scene. A lot of people really liked it. I think
Yeah.
that's what most fans are reviewing, right? You're talking about the hierarchy in the DCU. I think they said is what it is now, because it's not DC. They dropped the E, and now it's DCU,
It's cleaner.
and the D stands for DC, so it's DCCU. They have changed complete power, and in that you do have new CEOs, one of them being James Gunn, and I think a lot of people are looking forward to see like what's going to be revamped. I find it funny because, as you're describing it, is it a movie that stands on its own, or is it a movie where the fans are really excited because it's a DC property?
Right.
And we're at that weird moment where the new CEOs and the ending of this movie are like, we're taking this in a new direction, but the new direction is a rearview mirror
The old direction.
of the old direction. So I'm
We're
just
in a
really
brand new direction, the same as the old direction, but it's
I
brand
don't know
new
what's
this
going
time.
on, bro.
Yeah.
It's the weirdest thing, yeah. So it's like I understand the people who've been wanting that, why they're happy, but there's people who are like, we're finally doing something new. I was like, it sounds like the same, like literally, it's the same characters. So I don't know what to make of that.
Yeah, it's also beyond the whole like we're doing something new, but we're doing it old again. This movie visually is so indebted to Zack Snyder's style, whether it is like just the sort of darker, grayer look to some of these set pieces, or it is the like ultra slow mo
Oh
super
my
scenes, like just
goodness.
borrowing from everything that he's done and from films like Watchmen going forward. It
Yeah,
is so
very 300.
yeah, so very 300, very I don't know, just very indebted to his vision of what a superhero film should look like. And you know, the very first time that it does the sort of slowed down action scene, I thought it was kind of fun. You know, it's sort of like the 15th time we've gotten the Quicksilver effect
It's
in a movie,
Quicksilver.
but it's still decently fun. But when you're watching, you know, a 2 hour action film and maybe like 50 minutes of it are in super slow-mo, it
Mhm.
feels like padding almost, right? Like
Yeah.
it's a little bit like, let's get to the actual stuff.
Especially because the premise of the story is that you're telling it in two timelines. One, which was the past, I believe they say 5 or 6,000 years ago, is
Yeah.
when Tet Adam was just a regular person who lived in this fictional city that they have there in the Middle East. Though it's still very much representative of a Middle East city where they were slaves. They get taken over, and in the present time, they've never seen this hero figure, this godlike figure named Tet Adam, and now they're looking to kind of break out of that. And a lot of the people who you have in this movie, some of which are stars that I very much enjoyed out of Netflix shows this year, Mo, who's been in Rami, who has his own show that I think is one of the best of the year over on Netflix. He plays the sibling to one of the women who's looking for the crown, who's looking
Yeah.
for the stuff that she needs to be able to resurrect Tet Adam. She has her own son there, and you're kind of getting the story where they're like, yeah, we're the people, the refugees who are kind of like outcast out of our own place, and we feel like there's a very American Justice Society League that's in here trying to help but not really help, and no one's really doing much, and we need to take a stand. I'm like, wow, this is very subtle metaphors. And then you got Kanye in the trailer music, which perfectly now blends in
Right.
with what they're trying to go for. You have such a story that's trying to, I don't really want to call it nuanced, but it's the second of these that we've gotten from the DC, the previous one being Wonder Woman 1984, 5, whatever that was, which was also a really interesting, like, we're being self-aware of what's happening overseas and like the different, you know, powers that be. And yeah, we're just going to pretend like our hero, be it in Wonder Woman or here, doesn't come into clash in some way. And I think that's where it contrasts with its goofiness. We're like, yeah, we kind of want to use your real world landscape. But then it's also just a rock, just a
Yeah.
rock being the first one who's ever killed, and we laugh at that because we're like, well, you're technically not. In the world that you're in, this new DCU, we have seen heroes kill. But it is starting to feel more integrated, even if it is fragmented. It feels like a TV cameo when you see someone from a Suicide Squad. The Suicide Squad is big, but it's someone from there coming in just to like literally FaceTime in, zoom in, and you're like,
This is
okay.
This is the closest that a DC film has felt to the Marvel extended universe kind of thing, right? Where just somebody will drop
Almost.
in. And I'm not talking
Almost.
tonally. I'm talking just like the way that you're saying characters will show
Yeah.
up, that the stinger has like implications for the future films.
It feels like they come in with a lower third that tells you what property they were first featured in.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know, to me it all felt a little like
Jumbled.
they're straining to, a little like they're trying too hard to give the fans the things they think the fans will want, rather than just doing something good or interesting. I also know that I'm not a big like comic books person, so I'm like going to uh, whatever came first and stuff like that. I don't really know. I know it's all a mix of like copyright infringement and plagiarism and inspiration and whatever, but like, why is every single hero in this movie a copy of a hero from a different movie? Like, it's not enough that like
Don't do them like
they're the
that, bro.
Justice
You don't want to have that
Society.
conversation. Back up. You try to have a comic book talk right now.
I kind of want to, because it's just like they don't have anybody that doesn't feel like somebody we saw in a movie 2 years ago.
With the the Atom dude and the way that he grows up, yes, it's very much like Ant-Man. What you are playing, what you are discussing now, is all of this happened years ago in comics, and they're all
Yeah.
fighting to be the first person to adapt
Right.
it to the big screen, because they know the moment they adapt it to the big screen, everybody's going to be like, well, that's the one that came first, regardless of which one actually did. Yes,
Exactly.
and
that's
I
where
agree with you.
am.
There should
Because
be
it's-
directors
yeah.
realizing we've seen this. I know this is Adam's power, but we know that everyone who's going to buy a ticket for a movie has already seen it done better there. So what are you going to do different? And it doesn't ever seem like they try.
Yeah. Yeah.
If
And I
anything, it
wonder-
almost feels like they want to be comfortable with like, okay, we're just going to mimic what you already did and we'll be able to get away with it. It's like, that's not the
No,
point.
I wonder if it's almost like they're hoping people will spend less time. People who aren't paying that close attention will be like, "Oh, it's like the Ant-Man guy, right?"
Yeah.
Not even noticing it's a whole different character.
And as long as they combine it, yeah, I think they're like the
Dr.
Justice.
Fate, Doctor Strange.
Yeah, they're
it's like
another
an older
league
Doctor
thing.
Strange, right?
Yeah, the helmet that he puts it on, he gets the
Yeah.
powers. I think that they're really trying hard to push him forward, which is funny because this is a movie that clashed a lot with Shazam. And I think you've seen Shazam. I'm curious to see how you would compare both of them because, as it turned out, he didn't want to make a cameo in Shazam because, you know, The Rock counts punches.
Right.
And one of our jokes for the cameo, see why did it take so long to announce it, the one right at the end, is because, you know, they were counting stares at each other, as Dwayne likes to do in his movies. But the fact that he didn't appear in Shazam because he felt that, no, it needs to be an organic character who grows out of it. It can't just be a part of another movie. And then he's got the whole Justice Society there as a part of another movie.
Right.
Yeah, it's crazy. And his cameo is crazier because if you remember the cameo at the end of Shazam, I don't know if you recall it,
A very similar cameo.
is a very similar cameo, but they didn't get the sign off.
Right.
Because Papa Dwayne Johnson got the sign off. And it reminds me a lot of when the Spider-Verse boys had requested the voices of certain Spider boys who were the character before, and they got denied because they were already working on what would end up being No Way Home. So it's like you still see these dealings behind the scenes, and now that what's his name is in charge, James Gunn, I think a lot of people are excited, but I don't think they realize like switching of powers doesn't stop the problems that come with such a big franchise. The one thing Marvel's been really good at is that they have so many problems behind the scenes, but it never becomes vocal. The Restore the Snyder Cut thing is probably the biggest backlash a company can get to being bullied into releasing a cut. And they're like there's no release to whatever cuts for Marvel. There's a release the Suicide Squad cut. There's a release the Birds of Prey. There's a release so many for DC. So I don't think that's going to change. I know people are excited for Gunn, but I see there having to be like a much bigger overhaul to get to the success. I know we're not talking quality, but at least the success of what we can all agree the MCU has gotten.
Yeah, and the MCU only really got as huge as it did through releasing lots of films, really building them up, really building anticipation for the clashes. And, you know, maybe DC is trying to skip a couple steps, but they've at least got like some big properties and big movie stars attached to that. You were talking earlier about comparing this one to Shazam, and I think ultimately, like, I think Shazam's a lot more successful in that it feels like it knows its tone and sticks to it. Whereas Black Adam is sort of trying to be too many things to too many people because somebody in the comments, Sassy Caterpillar, called it DC's Terminator. And there's like definitely a Terminator influence here on how they treat the character and how the character is this sort of like guardian unwittingly to some regular people, but at the same time it's trying to do the kind of like meta superhero comedy that Marvel has kind of done a lot of. And you know, there's like all the posters in the kids room and stuff like that. I don't know, none of the comedy really worked for me here, and when it does try to get into like the traumatic flashback stuff, it feels like it's just padding the movie. Like it's so tacked on. I don't know. I think that while The Rock is decently fun in these types of roles, there's just like not a whole lot for him to do in Black Adam, at least thus far.
It's the 2000s type of action film that's a little updated, but it doesn't really do anything new. Your standard paper cut characters. There's not really much to him other than being a quieter Rock this time around. And I just wish the surrounding characters from Mo to the small kid weren't the cliche like, oh, I'm going to say a pop culture reference right here. Because then it does feel derivative of a lot of 80s movies. But hey, we'll see. I'm a little disappointed we didn't get Shazam this year. I don't know. It was supposed to be December. They pushed it back. I don't know. It's because they felt that Black Adam needed more breathing room. But I agree with you.
I think
I'm more
they
on the
thought
Shazam
James
side.
Cameron needed more breathing room.
I don't know what they needed. Well, I guess that's right. Yeah, because they now need to please him. But I'm looking more forward to Shazam. They got the dynamic down.
Definitely. All right, let's move on to the new film from Chan-wook Park. It is
the new
Decision
DCU
to Leave. I talked about this a little bit during our New York Film Festival episode with Austin, but Art, you've had a chance to catch up now on this film about a seasoned detective investigating a suspicious death when he starts to focus on the man's wife and develop a bit of a attraction, obsession. It's a really interesting film that is a mix of different feelings and tones and moods in a way that only a director like Chan-wook Park, I think, could kind of find the balance in between. Art, what did you make of Decision to Leave?
There's been a lot of discussion on TV and adult films and I guess the approach of what you take from a movie when you're watching it. And there's a part of this movie that's pulling you in as this murder mystery thriller, right? Mm-hmm. And it's fascinating. And then I feel the movie itself makes fun of you for wanting the murder mystery thriller the same way that the main lead detective is always told, you don't find happiness unless there's a murder in town. It's a movie that I wasn't expecting to really be about emotions, especially when they hit you with the title line in the film, about adults and not really just their mourning, but what they long for. Mm-hmm. And because of that, I'm very curious to rewatch it with different subtitles, which is a discussion you and I have been having, because they sent us a link and those links have like open caption. When I saw it in the theater, the Gene Siskel, they had it in closed captions. And it is a movie that relies on translation to a degree where damn near got to learn both languages that they have in this film, because one of the characters is Chinese and obviously the majority of the movie is in Korean, and there's a lot of overlap in terms of someone saying a phrase or a word or a sentence that sounds similar in each other's languages but means something different. Every American audience who doesn't speak those languages, boom, just went over your head. Right. And there's a lot of that I really want to dig into because I think it's pivotal in understanding the movie, or it's pivotal in having a translation of it, right? I know in Parasite that there's a lot of things that we miss because we don't understand what that means culturally to them. And I think those are points where you either need a really good translator to get as close as they possibly can, or that's when you find a way to make a remake that can get into the pocket of whatever those cultural nuances are. But there are several in this movie, especially with the way that they clash. And it's a movie that's kind of like fragmented into 3 parts, which I think is why a lot of people, even when we came out of the theater, it was like a whole group of like college kids who were like, yeah, this felt like it should have been like a series. And with it being a series, it could work that way. And having seen enough of his movies, I think, we're big. I know we're saying like, this should have been a miniseries, right? That's I would put that on some merch for Intercut if we had some. It should be a miniseries. It shouldn't be a miniseries. This is exactly what it needs to be. It could be long for people's taste, and I can see it definitely like, whoa, are we going to do a whole other investigation? I feel like I just sat through a whole movie, and then the movie goes, we're going to do a whole other investigation. Yeah. It's long for sure, but I think all of that has to play with a character who's dealing with insomnia, who feels like he can never get ahead of it, and the pacing of the movie is meant for that. It doesn't need to be a series because the series would be stopping episodically. I enjoyed it. I wanted to love it a lot more, but again, I don't know how much of that has to do with me having to catch it again and the translations at the bottom, because you're also seeing a lot of clues and a lot of them don't get translated. You only get translated the main focus of what the degree or the paper that's right in front of you, and you're wondering, does the other stuff come into play? So I feel like I haven't fully experienced the movie.
No, I totally get that. And that was sort of my reaction when I was talking about it last week, in that I don't know if I feel fully prepared to like talk about it as in a way that feels like I have a grip on it, because there is so much happening there, and
Yeah.
the way in which it'll move from one idea to another is so interesting.
You were
I
right
feel,
about that, bro. You would you were in one station, you woke up and you were like near rocks. You're like, how did we smoothly transition?
yeah. And like you mentioned that idea about how this one wouldn't work as well as a miniseries. I completely agree, because part of what does make it special is all these disparate elements being held up against each other. You know, like
Yeah,
feeling that whiplash is part of the experience. And I don't
exactly.
know, you know, I again, I do want to rewatch it and feel like I have a better grip of it, but it is so fascinating, and I think really does kind of give you that sort of, it puts you in the shoes of the character, in a way, in the mystery of it all, right?
Yeah,
Keeping you guessing. And
it was
I
fantastic.
thought the way it ended was also beautifully done. I'm excited to catch it again, because yeah, this is one of our master filmmakers, and there's so many interesting things happening, so many interesting shots too. I loved how this film was
Camera
shot.
movements and yeah.
Hmm.
No, I thought it was really good. I would also highly recommend the Gene Siskel if y'all have not been there in Chicago. Really beautiful theater, really great sound design, especially for this movie. So yeah, put them both on your radar. It should be coming to movies soon, in case you want to catch it in the comfort of your own home. But I know it started rolling out wide this past week, and with the coming weeks, hopefully you'll have this movie near you, because we at least think it'll be talked about all the way until the next award season.
Definitely. All right, let's talk about a very different film. It's Ticket to Paradise. This one, as our inner cuties have been letting us know, is available, or was available internationally before it was available in the US. I don't know what sparked that decision, given how big George Clooney and Julia Roberts are as movie stars. Maybe they think they
They're
hold a
bigger
little
over
more
there.
cachet internationally than they do in
Yes,
America.
sir.
Yeah, because we haven't gotten necessarily like a big Julia Roberts or George Clooney movie in what feels like almost a decade. I mean,
What's worse is what we got isn't big. The midnight whatever.
yeah,
You
I don't
know,
know exactly.
it,
Yeah,
it, it was
Money
easier in your
Monger.
mind. Yeah, it was easier in your mind to be like, they haven't done anything, than to have to be
Yeah,
like, they did do that.
yeah, oh yeah. So they're back together again, as they've been a few times in their career, headlining a romantic comedy, a genre that both are familiar with Ticket to Paradise, where they play a divorced couple teaming up to travel to Bali and stop their daughter from entering into a marriage too young, the same way that they did. Caitlin Dever plays that daughter. We like Caitlin Dever a lot. She doesn't really have a character in this movie. It's like she's supposed to be this recent, they call her a college grad, but they also say she's going to be a lawyer soon. So is she a college grad or a law school grad? And also, like, for a soon to be lawyer, she seems to not be that, like, I don't know, like bookish or workish. I don't know.
Booksmart.
Yeah, good one. I don't know. A lot of this film kind of feels just sort of like engineered in reverse. We want to send these two lovable movie stars to a beautiful location and have them fight until they're friends again. And it just kind of feels like very laid out, and not like they get to these places organically. Even the charm of George Clooney and Julie Roberts couldn't really sell that transition. They're very fun to watch. Like, I gave this one a negative review. I have it as 2 stars on my letterbox. But that being said, like, it's not unpleasant to watch, because they are so radiant and charming. And I get it. I fall for the George Clooney smile that most people do. But there's just not a lot of jokes in this comedy. I didn't find myself laughing really at all. And I don't know, if you've got me sitting in a seat for over an hour and a half and I don't really laugh until the blooper reel in the credits, I feel like there's something wrong with your movie, something wrong with your comedy. I wanted to like this one, and I don't want to say this is like one of the more annoying films or something that I watched, because it's inoffensive, it's fine. It's probably would have been better suited for like a Peacock release or something like that. but it's just not what you want from the like grand return to romantic comedies for Julia Roberts and George Clooney. It just feels like they could have used a little more punch up on this one.
It's one of those, you said they reverse engineered it. They reverse engineered it with where they wanted to go on vacation, found out what spots they wanted to go to, and then kind of wrote stuff in there. But
the funny thing is, they didn't actually shoot in Bali. They shot in like Western Australia. Wherever they shot, it was beautiful. But yeah.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like exactly what it was pitched to be. I'm still kind of excited. I want to take my mom to go see it.
Yeah, it's a perfect. Actually, one of the first things that I said when I left the theater was like, "That's a great movie to watch with your parents. That it's a perfectly inoffensive, decent."
With Thanksgiving right around the corner, it'll probably be on Peacock by then or wherever.
Yeah. Are you also going to take your mom to the theater to watch Terrifier 2?
I'm taking the kids, bro. Give me all the little ones. We're gonna go trick or treating at the local multiplex. This is disgusting, Zach. Stay away from this one.
Yeah, you told me not to watch it.
No. Do you know the history of Terrifier?
I don't. I didn't even realize there was a Terrifier 1 until this one started doing numbers at the box office.
It did. If you click Damien Leone right there, he is a director who's been working on this little figure known as Art the Clown. Tocayo that I have right there, of course. He first came out in this little movie called All Hallows Eve. You can see it right there. Yeah. This was kind of an anthology movie to a degree, where a girl is watching different VHS tapes, and out of the 3 shorts, 2 of them he had already worked on before. Terrifier was a short little film that he made, but you can't make money off short films. Makes a feature out of it. First time you see him on there. That should be the short right there that you're looking at. So it proceeds at 2011, 2013. By that point, the clown's out there in the stratosphere. He's kind of already been known as the supernatural entity. Terrifier comes out in 2016. It costs like a pack of gum. Terrifier 2, I didn't realize, costs 3 packs of gum. This thing's only $250K.
Yeah.
We have this discussion a lot, so just in case we have one of these viewers who like doesn't realize that budgets for movies are not like what you get paid a salary for. Like, budgets for movies are different. So $250,000 is a lot. Not for a movie that's got to live on forever. That is nothing. People don't realize like $1 million is nothing. $5 million are the Blumhouse budgets that they tell you is a shoestring. So 250 is nothing.
Yeah.
It has made all that money back and more right now. This is the movie that they've said Halloween continues to lose more viewers, be it because it's at home. And people are going to go see Terrifier in droves. I do not want to see a Terrifier costume out. I already asked Selena, you're in an alleyway, and Art the Clown's on one side and Ghostface is on the other. I'm embracing Ghostface like I've never seen him before. Like, he's the one from Scary Movie 2. No, Art the Clown is a demented fool. He has been pitched by the guy who plays him as Charlie Chaplin if he came from hell. He is a ghoul. He is a demon. He does nothing but try to terrify people in the most disgusting way possible. There is some stuff in the first movie that kids should not be watching. There's stuff in the second movie that kids shouldn't even be described to them.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds completely sadistic. I mean, when you get horror films, there is like a spectrum, right? There is sort of the more innocent kind of like jump scare whatever. There's the A24 kind of more psychological horror, and then you get closer and closer to the real like sick, twisted, sadistic gore, excessive violence, like even beyond slasher stuff. You get into full torture porn. Are we full torture porn? Is this like way beyond? Is this Hostile or even going beyond that?
I mean, they don't laugh at you at Hostile, and that's what makes this more demented, is that he's also not that slow with it. He's pretty quick. He goes in, he gets the job done. He's more like a hitman. Like, he's he's what's it called? Irishmaning it when he goes in there. But he does do it with some joy. This is a clown that doesn't necessarily talk. And as I was reading up on him, it's supposed to be an invert about a mime during World War II who made so many kids laugh right before their demise. Like, it was this clown who was supposed to be this really big figure. And they've taken that look and applied it to Art the Clown, the Terrifier, who's gone to just do all of these crazy stuff. In the second one, he's dealing with a family. And there's a lot more of a family element that comes into play because the first movie is like an hour 20. This second one, if you scroll down a little bit, it's pushing 2 hours.
Ooh.
I don't know why.
That's a long horror movie.
I didn't know if you knew this, but I feel people need to know before they catch this. You are going
Yeah.
to be sitting there for a very long time.
Oof.
He comes up. I can never say that you're bored, but I can definitely say that there will be things that'll cross people's line. Where you're like, yeah, this is a little bit too much for me. It's the way that he goes about showing you certain things, the types of kills that he does. Yeah, they're pretty gross. I can't say that any of the characters surrounding the survivors, the ones who are trying to live, really stood out to me as much. I don't know. I kind of like the ones from the first a little bit more, only because they're so overtly dumb that it made us laugh, and they earned the Terrifier kills. In the second one, they're kind of innocent, so you kind of feel bad that they're getting mutilated by this clown who just comes to screw around. But look, I'll put it. It's very effective. So many clowns that we have out there in the world. To have another one where he is purposefully designed to not look like Pennywise. He doesn't speak so that he can't be Pennywise, and has to do all of these miming type things. I think it makes it scarier. I think we've seen so many Joker reactions that it's gotten to the point of like, oh, okay, we know exactly what type of Joker you're doing, to the point that you're not emulating a character, you're emulating Heath Ledger's, Mark Hamill's, whatever it is. Terrifier, yeah, it's a. Why'd you gotta bring that up, bro? That was him, wasn't it? That was him. Alina refuses to believe that was him yelling at Tyler the Creator because
I think it is.
We're not gonna get to the P. Diddy talk. That was scarier than Terrifier 2. But yeah, no, in terms of the clown cinematic universe, the CCU, hey, it's not gonna be everyone's cup of tea, but I think it delivers on all of the news that have broke out because of it. I think it's been able to go in there and achieve what it needed to, especially with such a small budget. Hey, that's a pretty impressive amount of box office to do for such a small movie. So shout out to Art the Clown. Never want to see you again, bro, but I see you got a third one in the works.
It sounds like you like the first one more, but do you need to have seen that one to go into Terrifier 2?
I don't think you need to, but there is actually an interesting timeline narrative thing that they do.
Okay.
So it reminds me a lot of Orphan, the same way you would be like, you don't need to see the first one, but you probably should see the first one. It's like that.
And then a quick question from the live stream. Devesh is asking if he's like the Joker.
I mean, clowns, connections, sure. The guy who plays him, the way that he won him was when he was auditioning and they told him he got to do mime stuff. He pretended to rip someone's skull open, I believe their neck, and he tasted the blood, but he thought it needed more salt. So he ad-libbed adding more salt to the severed head, and the director was like, you got the part. So
you are sadistic.
If that reminds you of the Joker, then yes, he's a lot like the Joker. But the guy has said, the guy who plays him, that his dream role is to play the Joker one day.
Oh.
So there is some influence there.
Interesting.
I don't think he's like the Joker. If the Joker was on the other side, I'm running the Joker, bro. Squeeze me with the acid. That's better than what this man does over here.
All right, let's take a hard shift into Amsterdam. Film that we talked about previously, or I talked about previously on Intercut. But Art, you're missing that week, so we didn't get a chat about the new David O. Russell film that we saw together in New York. What were your thoughts on this starry ensemble piece?
Beautiful IMAX that we saw it in as well over at the Lincoln Center. There was another movie that I'm blinking on right now that to me is kind of the inverse of this. This is a movie that has a very jumbled up script. It's going and aiming for a lot of things, but it sounds like a Chicago rapper on a long podcast rambling about things that he may not fully know about. But it has a cast that is impeccable. Every single person in here comes in giving it their all. I personally can't name a bad performance in it. I think Margot Robbie's fantastic. I think that Christian Bale is incredible in every project that he's worked on with David O. Russell, and this is no different. Even if I don't think he knew where his character may be going by the end of it, there is stuff that shouldn't work for his character, but Christian makes it work. All of the other supporting characters, Mike Myers, really liked him in this movie as a small character. Andrea Riseborough, the duo of the cops. One of them is Matthias Schoenaerts, and I'm blanking on the other guy who's always playing his drunk partner. Absolutely fantastic. Yeah. Everyone is coming in here, batting on all cylinders. They said this movie cost $100 million. I hope everyone in the cast got paid because this movie did not make back that money. No. I don't understand the focus of the story. You and I, after watching this, came home and we're listening to interviews, and I think it was Mike Myers specifically who said, the movie's about your Amsterdam. You're supposed to finish the movie and go, what's my Amsterdam? What's the thing I run away to? That's what the movie's saying. You and I look at each other. It's like 2 o'clock in the morning and we go, is that what the movie's saying?
Really?
I never got that in the movie, but
Yeah.
I can see how it got lost in
Yeah.
all of the stuff he was aiming for in this movie. This is one where it feels like it should have been longer. There are moments where two characters just disappear, and I'm like, what? Where'd you? Oh, you're just gonna come back later and give me the recap of what you guys did? No, I want to see that. I want to see the investigations here. It seems like it's a very deep world where he's basing elements off of real world secret societies, but then even went ahead to make his own little symbols, which were interesting flips on some very big iconography that's out there. It just doesn't really add up tonally, but also like what they were building it up to be. Because even in the storyline that you're following, you're like, I don't know, it kind of seems like you're fighting against a threat that's going to wipe you out way easier than you think. So I don't really understand this journey that we're going on.
Yeah, when I was talking about it, I was mentioning how I felt like for this movie that's trying to give you the feeling of you're falling into this big conspiracy that can shift the
Thank you.
powers of the world, it feels way too much like you can solve the problem by going and talking to 2 or 3 people. And maybe that's like you said,
That
a
too,
miniseries or
yeah.
something. Maybe lengthening that plot would have given you the time to really get into the nature of trying to get to the bottom of this conspiracy, that you can really actually go hunt people down and go back and forth. But like it all, for as crazy as it's supposed to be, it all resolves really cleanly and easily. It resolves by like looking up into the rafters and being like, oh, there's a guy there. Like it's just
like,
too,
yeah,
it doesn't add up, as you said.
you're doing interstellar travel, and then one of the characters is like, is the power love? I think the power is love. And you're like, yeah, it's this massive worldwide conspiracy. And then they're like, but do we have love in our trio of friends? And I'm like, what does that have to do with the other? It's trying to balance two completely different types of movies, a thriller and a friendship journey. And I don't know, it felt like two scripts meshed together that luckily you have really great performances. And what I would say is the best thing that Taylor Swift put out this past month. So for that, put it on your radar if you're interested.
Yeah.
If not, don't worry. 100 million other people did not invest in watching this movie.
You're in good company if you didn't watch it. Maybe the better mystery thriller in theaters is See How They Run. I didn't get to catch this one, but I think you did.
Yes. It had a really quick flip in theaters where HBO Max is about to have it this weekend. So if you haven't seen it, we might have it on the new to see. You will have this in the comfort of your own home. And I may recommend a double feature between this and The Outfit, which is on Prime or Peacock.
Yeah.
One of those two. That would be a really good double feature. I have
Prime.
The Outfit. Yeah, I think so. The Outfit has edged this out for me just a little bit in terms of the performances and the way that movie plays out. But you have a similar type of story here where you have a mystery thriller of a murder, but it's taking place within this play, and everyone in the play has different reasons for wanting to stay at the play or why they don't like somebody else at the play, in particular because the play is going to be turned into a movie, but they can't turn it into a movie because some people worry that the play isn't going to sell anymore because now it's a movie. So you're wondering like what's going to happen here. I don't know if they spoil who specifically dies, but it's a pretty prominent character, not just in the cast, but for this show that ends up getting it, and they have to figure out who is the murderer. It is very meta. A lot of people have called this Wes Anderson. I don't see I do see the Wes Anderson. I feel like that's the cliche to just be like, oh my gosh, things are very flat, or there's a very nice pattern. It must be Wes Anderson. It uses a lot of his cast, which I could also see why they say Wes Anderson. Right. To me, it is more Baby Driver.
Okay, more Edgar Wright.
Soho. It's more Edgar Wright because of the way he jokes about it. The way it breaks the fourth wall. Where you'll have a character being like, what? Are we going to jump 3 weeks later? And it says 3 weeks later, you know? That to me is more him than it is Wes. The characters are fun to hang out with. The mystery takes its twists and turns that I think are kind of intriguing. But it reminds me a lot of Scream, in where it's commenting on what you already know. And then that's the movie. It's like, hey, don't mystery thrillers do this? And you're like, yeah, it does do that. And they're like, yeah, it does do that. And I'm like, oh, that's your take on it. Got it. But it got close towards the end, dude, where I was like, yo, this is willing to do something a little different.
Interesting.
And then it didn't commit to it. And I wish it would have commit to it. But I love the cliches that they try to flip on here. That idea of like you're almost narrating what's supposed to happen in a mystery thriller. Mm-hmm. So it becomes a little meta with it. But it doesn't do anything too new.
Yeah. You mentioned Scream, which is probably like the high end of that, like we're self-aware and meta and
Scream, no, no,
doing
no,
the
no, no,
thing.
no, no. Scream 2022,
Okay. Well, yeah.
not the original Scream. Scream is the best. You're right.
Well,
Yes,
that's what I was going to say. That's the high end of the like we're
yes.
acknowledging it and doing it at the same time. I think about like I know a lot of people like the movie more than me, but Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent earlier this year, where I hated the way that they would like talk about the plot as the plot was happening.
Yes, it's that.
Yeah.
Sometimes, yeah, it's that sometimes. Okay, there you go. That's the best way to put it. If you like that, a lot of people like that type of comedy. I just feel it's incomplete. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, you're addressing what the audience already knows. What makes
Right.
you a movie and why the audience came is that next step, not the talks that we have after the movie.
Yeah. It
And
feels
that's what
like
I
a
felt the
cop
new.
out for the script, just a cop out.
That's what it is. It's like,
Yeah.
you're discussing what people already know instead of doing something different. The original Scream knew it's like, this is something people think about, but they've never sat in a movie
Yeah.
and been given it. By 2022, we've sat with every version of this. So, look, it's still intriguing, but I definitely think the best place to watch it is on HBO. It's a very brisk movie. It's enjoyable. The cast is great. And our guy from Triangle of Sadness kills it in this movie as well. He's so
Ooh.
charismatic.
Okay.
So, yeah, really good cast.
Very cool. So maybe a slight recommendation for See How They Run. Maybe a more hearty recommendation for the outfit, which I actually caught up with on my plane back
It's good,
into
bro.
the country. Yeah, it's really solid. I remember you telling me that it was good, but it's really just a very satisfying watching the pieces all fall into place movie. A very good contained set movie, a chamber piece, and yeah, I mean, just is continually surprising right up until the end. Maybe doesn't feel quite as big as it's some like kind of feels stagey. I think you mentioned that it feels like a play.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's play. It's all in
And
one room practically.
yeah, and it almost feels sometimes more like a play than a movie. But I enjoyed it quite a bit. Mark Rylance is so solid in this movie, and the kind of actor who can really pull off this
He's
kind
really
of
good.
role where there's like always a card he has up his sleeve, and
Mm-hmm.
he never like hints at it too heavily.
Yep.
Yeah, so I'd recommend that one as well.
Yeah, like we said, that one should be over on Prime. They keep switching it between Peacock. I don't understand. It's a Universal movie. Universal gets it, and then y'all forgot to close in on the rights, and it goes the other way. I don't know about that, but this is one where I would even say if they had a good deal on it, it was like $9 and you could buy it. I would give it that type of rating. I thought it was a pretty decent movie, especially if there's some behind the scenes because Rylance's performance is fantastic, and that's the second one of the year that's really stood out to me. So I would consider him a lead in this. I don't really know how they would break it down, but to me, he's a lead there.
Sure.
Bones and all, he's supporting. I think he earns a spot in both categories, in my opinion.
Ooh, okay. We'll get into actor discussions not too long from now for sure. But let's talk about some more horror stuff. Given this is Halloween, let's talk about VHS 99, the latest in the VHS series, which is a series of anthology films that are all horror shorts. Some of them have revolved around different years, from VHS 85 to this one is VHS 99. I'm always intrigued by these anthologies because they tend to get pretty interesting directors to work on them. I don't often find most of the shorts to be that satisfying, though. I saw you put out on Let Me Explain a VHS 99 ranked. So how many would you say are worth your time in VHS 99?
So the shorts are different to me, right? Because it's like when you recommend a movie and you're telling someone to spend 90 minutes to, almost 2 hours. That's like a really big investment. But when you're watching shorts, I do feel like, it's a lot easier. It's only going to be 10, 15 minutes of your time. Mind you, it's a feature of shorts, so you're just back to recommending 90 minutes of it, in which case I do agree with you. Since probably VHS 2, you're getting a 50-50 for a lot of these. And I'm not going to say that for VHS 99 it doesn't change. I just felt that the pendulum swung a little bit more the other way. They're probably going to be hit or miss, but I think each one includes something intriguing for you to remember it by, especially in this new slate of it. That even if they don't end up becoming your favorites, I think you'll be like, oh, that was an interesting type of game show thing that they did. But as you described it, I think you're in there for the directors. What they've been doing with a lot of the earlier ones, and I didn't even realize this, is that they're taking the shorts, using VHS as a platform,
Yeah,
to see which one gets the most attention. and then making those spin-off feature films. I think they're going to do one with the Ratma thing that they did from the previous one, because in you had said 94 they had like this whole rat monster thing, and TikTok went crazy for it because they thought it was like an actual news report. So from there, I see a lot of success in them spinning that off into something and then it being its own thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because you see a little bit of it in this new one. In 99, they mentioned the Ratma character. In this new one, you have a lot of really prominent directors who are doing really big things. You had the ones from Deadstream, the couple who I really like. You have Flying Lotus, who's been making several things. Johannes Roberts, who just did Welcome to Raccoon City. Even in the original ones, it was the Radio Silence boys who did the new Scream, who did Ready or Not. Like, you go back and you see Adam Wingard.
High West?
You have actual talent who are working on these films, and there could be negatives to it. The idea of like getting multiple up and coming directors to do shorts where they don't really own the short and much definitely don't own the feature, and it's whoever's producing it that owns it. Like, I'm put that out there. But it is a really good way to be able to get up and comers, give them an opportunity to be seen in an anthology that can put them on people's radar. If not, have that short expand, hopefully have someone see it and be like, hey, we want to make something else with you. I think having them be at home, be hosted on Shudder is also very good, because that's the best way to catch a lot of these things. I think you and I both said this, shorts in general should be on all these streaming services because it's the easiest places. You know, Quibi failed. TikTok did not. YouTube is pushing shorts. If people are already paying for these services, I think you have an ability to be able to create, I don't know, more content with these short form things that you have.
No, and I'm surprised services like Netflix that are always looking for new IP.
They
have shorts, but I'm surprised they don't push them a little more as almost like a test. Like, oh, if a bunch of people click on this short, maybe we should turn it into a feature. You know, that's something that filmmakers have always done, is like make their short films as kind of like mission statements for their features. But it is interesting that like the VHS series provides that for so many different filmmakers.
Exactly. What I find interesting is that what they've done is on your phone, on the actual Netflix app, they've done this instead. Yeah. It's mostly for stand-up people, but they used to do it for like Big Mouth. They'll take like a segment of a show, like right here, they're taking a segment from Uncharted, and they're just like making clips so that you can kind of flip through it as if it was TikTok. Exactly. So it's like they're shortening, the shorts. They're clipping the clips.
Yeah.
So they're already aware of it. So we'll see how it expands. But look, I think it's another decent addition to the VHS anthology series. They have it on lock right now, but that is until, Zach, there is competition for Shudder, and it's called Screambox. That is what Terrifier is going to go to. Ooh. That's the home for Terrifier. That's the home for another Chicago movie that we saw.
Interesting.
So believe it or not, Shudder's starting to get some competition.
Look, I mean, imitators is a sign of success, right? And I think we've been talking about Shudder for years now on Intercut. We've really seen Shudder blossom from a interesting place where you can get some off the beaten path horror movies to kind of like the place to go for anything not made by Blumhouse in terms of horror, right? Like all of our favorite recent horror movies have found their way onto Shudder one way or another. And whether that's, you know, stuff like Resurrection or even stuff that's like documentaries, like the history of folk horror one that we were talking about. Shudder's a really interesting service. And yeah, if Screambox is throwing their hat into the ring, maybe that just means that everybody's going to, you know, the competition will help everybody raise their game.
That's what I want.
Let's talk about a new Apple TV Plus release. This one, I believe, had its premiere in Toronto a month ago, although I didn't catch it there. I actually still haven't caught it, but it's Raymond and Ray, starring Ewan McGregor and Ethan Hawke as a pair of half-brothers reuniting when their estranged father died. Art, what did you think of this latest starry release from Apple TV Plus?
This one also played at Chicago Fest. It was one of those ones where it's like 2 days before it comes out on Apple TV. They're doing like a premiere
thing.
Yeah, exactly. So you can pay, $20 to go see it as a part of a festival, or just wait and catch it once it's out on Apple TV. We were able to get it in our little what is it called? Our Screeners app. So it was there for me to catch right before we went in. and it reminds me of another movie that I'm trying to pull up here and I can, and maybe you'll be able to remember it. I wanted to say it was an Owen Wilson movie. I found it right here, boy. It's called Father Figures. I'm trying to post it into the regular chat so that you have something to pull it up here. It is
All
a
right.
story about siblings who don't realize how many other siblings they may or may not have. It's a goofy movie.
Ah,
I don't
right.
see
I
this
remember
as.
that one.
I don't know if you remember this movie right here. Yeah, this is another
Yeah.
weird one where they're going out, they're not realizing. It's kind of comparing them as father figures, but their father has passed, and in realizing that, they don't know the extent of how far-reaching the father knew people and different things. And as they go on this funeral quest, they learn more about their past. That is a lot of what this other movie is. You have decent performances because obviously it's Ethan Hawke, it's Ewan McGregor. They're not bad at what they do, but they're completely different sides of the coin. They had completely different upbringings, even though they had the same father. They were just treated differently. And little by little, as they're there trying to bury their father, they see somebody else try to help out, only to realize, wait, that's a brother we never knew we had. And that's the movie. It's goofy at points. It's just your regular cliche. Stereotypical movie where brothers are mourning, but at the same time they find ways to like do little goofy bits that call back to their past. It's on Apple TV. It feels like the old Apple TV movies where like, yeah, it doesn't feel like Apple TV's put out a movie yet. I still,
Right.
for the most part, don't think we've recommended a drama from Apple TV. Not a
Graham was
doc.
okay. Graham was
I
okay.
It has really good sound design, but I'm not putting sound design as my top movies. This fits well with the Apple features that we've gotten. They still reign supreme in shows. This was okay.
Yeah, it still feels like they're waiting for. Well, I mean, wait. Before we get people mad at us, Cha Cha Real Smooth is an Apple movie. But aside from that,
No. Not after all those New York Times articles you read to me at the beginning, so I feel half the people agree.
Yeah,
But I would
there's
say Chacha's at
definitely-
the top.
There's a lot of like very star-driven stuff on Apple that kind of arrives with a shrug. I guess it's fine. Like none of the movies that I've seen in that vein are really bad. They're just mostly forgettable.
That's
And
what
I
it
guess
is. Yeah.
I guess you can add that to the collection that Apple TV Plus is developing. The thing
They
is,
did
though,
have some good ones though.
yeah, they don't have always the best narrative films, but they've got some great documentaries. They had Boys State a couple of years ago, which was our favorite documentary of that year. In 2020, we loved it at Sundance, and they've got a couple that were also at the Toronto International Film Festival. I didn't see Sidney, but I know you did. The documentary looking at the life and career of the iconic actor Sidney Poitier, including interviews from all the famous black stars and directors in Hollywood that you can think of. Art, what did you think about Sidney?
As a basic entry level, looking at what Sidney did throughout his career, I think it's pretty decent. I can't say that it gets too personal or does something in the sense of them being able to flip it into something where you're able to have his artistic voice put on it. He is a talking head in there, and you have several other different people. But there's another one that you have where I think it's able to take a director who knows how to make a documentary and make it feel more lived in. Sydney, I think, has Oprah as like a really big producer, and
Yeah.
that's no push to Oprah, but I think you know the glossy style of an Oprah documentary. When they
Yeah.
get to a part of like Sydney went out and he didn't come home because he was, well, doing something else. And then the next scene is cutting to him like winning an Academy Award because you can't have people ponder on Sydney that bad for why he didn't come home. And I'm like, dive deep into it. That's what I mean by
Right.
glossy. It's still 2 hours. So that's why I think that it's able to cover a wide spread of things. But I mean, Sydney's too big to be able to just have him in one feature film. This is a man who needs a docuseries. This is like,
Yes.
you have Denzel sitting there pretty much saying, without Sydney, there is no me. I am the person who he passed it on to carry on. You have everybody there who he's affected in various degrees being able to give some input. But still, I think it's not going to be the definitive thing for Sidney. But it's still very much probably one of the biggest ones that people are gonna gravitate towards because of the amount of people and insights they were able to bring in.
Yeah, I was talking to Shane Intercutie that we've met in Toronto before, and he caught Sydney, and he was saying that it's like a decent documentary for somebody who doesn't really know anything about Sidney
Yeah.
Poitier. But people, I think if you are interested in movies and movie history, you do know a lot of those things about Sidney Poitier. So maybe this isn't the documentary that is going to give you that deep dive that we're always asking for from these
But it's
profile
good.
documentaries.
But it's good. There's a moment where he talks about him and Harry Belafonte and their on and offs and on and offs and how they had to come back together because they needed to. And I'm like, but what happened there? I want a whole doc just on that, just on like on their friendship, and that ends up just being in the fringes of this. So yeah, it makes you want more. So that's how you know it's incomplete, but nonetheless gives you a good overview of what the man's life was. This next one though, I thought was a lot better. I think it's able to get into the thought process of a man, and to me, that's where you really get into the creativity, and that's because of this director, Sasha Jenkins.
I think we both responded a lot to Louis Armstrong's Black and Blues, which takes a look at his life and does it in a style that I thought was really interesting. I had commented to you after Toronto that I always love when a documentary tries to really evoke the person that it's about. So Louis Armstrong apparently kept a scrapbook where he kept many of his many of his newspaper write-ups and photos and stuff like that. So the documentary here takes on the look of a scrapbook in retelling parts of the story. It's that kind of like care for the presentation that I think takes something like this and brings it beyond what we normally get in like a typical profile documentary.
I also really like the idea of him having kept a record of like everything that he did. So you actually do have a lot to show. And I love how he's like, you're going to show everything, the good, the bad, but I'm going to make sure that I have all of it recorded to some degree. And just seeing the turmoils of like not just him as an artist, which I think is a really good balance that the movie has. It's not just like here's the racial divides that he had to face. Here's him as a musician and also what he had to face, and how both of them blend in depending on where he is, but not subtracting one for the other, and being able to see like not justify or what's the word I'm looking for? I guess it is justify some of the actions or things that he had to do, but looking at it from the context of said times. There was one specific talking head that looks back on how a lot of other of his contemporaries looked at him and thought he was kind of like a sellout, and then spending time with him and realizing like, oh no, he's doing like what he's going through is something that once you recognize it and you apply it to your own journey, you realize like, no, that's not a person that I would make fun of ever again. And I don't know, I think it really puts you into his state of mind during that period of time, which is insane. But what he meant artistically and what he was able to do with his voice. And I mean, if you don't know Louis Armstrong, just like Google, YouTube, whatever, you'll listen to a couple. I don't expect everyone to know like every trumpet solo that he did, but like you listen to the what's it called? His most famous song. I mean,
what does anybody not know What a Wonderful
That's
World?
What I'm saying. I play that.
Maybe you don't know his name or can his
but like
other
you
songs.
Know that, and it speaks to you. Yeah, his voice to go from blowing on an instrument to then singing like that. It's otherworldly. So yeah, I think Louis Armstrong's someone who deserves like biopics, miniseries, all that. And I'm just glad he got a really good doc because Sasha Jenkins also did Bitchin' earlier this year. The Rick James doc, and he continues it here.
Absolutely. And, luckily with Louis Armstrong, Black and Blue, you mentioned all those records that he gets to pull from and pull actual quotes from, plus all the radio interviews. And Louis Armstrong would also record himself. It's such a gift to be able to have
visuals,
the person being profiled, not just the visuals, but the person being profiled actually speaking about themselves and their career, despite the fact that Louis died almost 50 years ago now, 51 years ago now, which is crazy to think about considering how present a lot of his legacy and culture or music remains. You mentioned the biopic treatment that he hasn't really gotten yet. Forrest Whitaker for many, many years was trying to get a movie made called Satchmo that would star him as the iconic trumpeter. And I was always kind of hoping that would happen, although I feel like Forrest is now getting towards the territory where he might be a bit too old to do most of the story. And I don't know if this is like the craziest idea in the world. Maybe I'm just saying this because I really like him as a actor, but I almost feel like Sam Richardson might make a decent Louis Armstrong.
Sam Richardson could make a really great Louis Armstrong.
Right?
He just got to work on that. He works on that smile. Oh, we're talking Oscars for sure. It was interesting that you mentioned Forrest Whitaker because he played Charlie Bird Parker in the Clint Eastwood movie a couple years back. I don't know if you ever saw Bird, but I can see him definitely having that like drive to want to make something like this because I thought he was pretty good. I own this movie. I own Bird, so I could definitely see him being in this role. He is older now, so I like your Sam Richardson thing. My money's in.
Yeah, let me pull up.
We'll call their people.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Make sure we get a producer credit at the very least.
Yeah, but no, Bird's a good one to mention, especially with the Forrest Whitaker connection. I feel a lot of people like him saying that. Does he have the lungs to still do it?
Right.
There was also I did not know this. He wants to play Michael Jordan. Idris Elba's dream role is to play Michael Jordan. You did not know about this. This is fresh.
It, or what is?
My dude, this is like Beast press run talking about this, and his wife's like, "Oh yeah, that used to be your dream," and he goes, "Used to?" He like adamantly still wants to play Michael Jordan. He got laughed at, I think, in a sports podcast, and he goes, "No, I meant like the businessman, Michael Jordan." I don't know, but clearly he really wants to play Michael Jordan. So if Forrest Whitaker still has lung capacity to do Louis, then maybe you can see Idris from the free throw.
I do now need to see that movie. I'm very curious.
You kind of want to, right?
Yeah. All right, let's go to TV before we get to the new to see, because there have been some very interesting shows airing while we've been doing all our film festival stuff. House of the Dragon wrapped up its season 1 run with all sorts of time skips and dragon warfare. We've been talking about how it's giving us that Game of Thrones feeling. How did you feel in those final few episodes? Are you a fan of where it landed, and are you really, really excited for season 2, or have you cooled off a bit?
No, I am just as excited. I feel that a lot of people thought that it was a little anticlimactic. I don't think so, because I think it ended exactly where it needed to be. Yeah. This is a series where, at least for season 1, it's kind of been split between 2 parts, several time jumps, but in particular, one where you change the 2 lead actresses that you see right there on screen. And I was a little worried, in particular for, not for, what's her name? The redhead?
Olivia Cook.
Olivia Cook, I knew was going to come in and do her thing. That I had no problem with. Yeah, Emma Darcy's the new one or the old actress? Because I thought the younger actress for the blonde.
Millie Aycock was the younger actress. Was
fantastic. And I'm like, damn, I'm really going to miss her because she brought a lot of vulnerability, a lot of like rebellion to it. And when you have the new actress who comes in, I was a little concerned. I was like, damn, I just lost someone who I have the biggest connection with, because you still have the King stays the same. Doctor Who guy stays the same. And you're feeling them. They both killed it. Like literally, what's the Rhaenys? Rhaenyra. And that second half has to do so many scenes, specifically a walk with a trail behind her. I was like, oh, okay, I guess you won me over. And then in the finale, you realize what the whole season's leading up to.
And she does it in a look.
She does it in a look. And I'm like, that's exactly where we need to end it on. I thought you still got the VFX fights that you needed them to, clash with. But I really think it was an emotional climax that you get to where you realize, all right, there is no looking back at this friendship anymore. That's the line that has been crossed. And to me, I'm like, that's the perfect ending, because now we have the beginning of what's going to be season 2. I also like that they're taking their time with it. I hope that they spend good money on the dragons when there's a lot of stuff in the air and they get very diffused and they're like exterior shots. But whenever they're like on them floating in the dragons, I do need them to fix that for season 2, because it looks goofy. And I don't want it to age that much, because you have really great performances, really good writing, really good blocking. And
and really good use of the score that doesn't need to really be changed. Everything that's firing on all cylinders. They just need to fix those VFX shots.
Yeah, it's funny because people have been talking about how good the volume is, and they apparently did use the volume VFX for making those dragon scenes happen. And I don't know,
Okay.
it's some of the worst looking volume stuff I feel like we've seen yet. Much better in The Mandalorian and the Batman for sure.
Hmm.
But it doesn't take me out of the show. I know a lot of people get frustrated like when it gets dark or when it maybe gets a little bit more VFX-y, but I still think that ultimately what you care about are these characters and the dynamics between them and
Easily.
the constant power, the tug of war over who's going to be in power. And I think they've really got that down, the way that they have continually raised the stakes, found new nuances into this fight. I've seen people also criticize the show for being all set up to what season 2 is going to be, and I see that, but I think it's really well done setup. Like, really puts you in the world, makes you grow an attachment to these characters, because it's not that easy to build a sense of like a history of a sense of a place, and that basically is what they did in season 1. They've really like set the table perfectly, so when we do finally go to war, there are investments on both sides. Like, maybe you do know who you want to win in this whole power struggle, maybe you know who does win because you read the book. I have not, but I think they've done a great job of establishing things in a way where you have these various rooting interests, the way you did watching Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones was more than just Khaleesi or what's her name, Dany and Jon Snow. It was Tyrion, it was Littlefinger, it was Stannis. It was that there were all these different people
Moving pieces,
involved, and you need to have, you need that base in order to really enjoy the full breadth of a show like this. I think what they've done is really, really great. I thought we didn't talk about episode 8, which was my favorite of the season, but I thought it was kind of very beautifully done, and not only gets the intensity of this fighting over succession, but like the heartfeltness and the I don't know, the pain, the human pain involved in seeing your families torn apart. I'm really impressed with the show so far. I think they're nailing it in every aspect.
Hmm. I'm looking forward to it. If you haven't hopped on it, no better time. You don't have 5, 6, 7 seasons of Thrones to catch up on. This is the prologue. Watch this, and as we always say, if you like it, then boom, you have a whole other series that follows afterwards for you to watch. But which one was 8 again?
8 was the one where
Where they make the switch?
No, 8 was the one with the big family dinner and with Patty Considine being really old and decrepit.
Someone loses an eye.
Yes. No.
Okay, that's
Wait, is that? No, sorry, that's 7. 8 is the one where somebody loses a head.
okay. Say no more.
Yeah. Anyway, so
No, that's the one where they lost fingers.
right.
Wrong body parts.
So we're still in on Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. It's still fun, and maybe we'll get on maybe more of a weekly pace with the show in season 2 or something. But it's been good.
Very good.
The other HBO show that they've replaced their dragons with is White Lotus, back for a second.
That's all they got, bro.
Now
HBO's got nothing new.
Yeah, they gotta lean on the ones that work. And White Lotus, it's a fun formula. I think when we heard that they were going to continue with it, it's one that actually lends itself to this kind of like anthology-esque kind of treatment, because you have different resorts all over the world, and you can keep bringing in more guests. And they've brought in a whole bunch of new faces. Haley Lou Richardson, one of our favorites, Aubrey Plaza, who we've recently dedicated a whole bracket to, and of course the return of Jennifer Coolidge, who was probably the breakout of season 1. They are now, and Emmy winner, they are now in Italy on a luxury resort in Sicily, and up to more hijinks. You know, I think with the first season, when you get into it, they do a really good job of just sort of introducing you to all the different characters and giving you the tease of, oh, there's a dead body and we have no idea who that is or why that happened. And, you know, that's the formula they've gone with to kind of repeat here. It's intriguing because it leaves you kind of guessing, and, you know, you can kind of pull the thread on every character and be like, well, that relationship looks like it's contentious. I wasn't somebody who was completely won over right away on the first season of the White Lotus. I think as it continued and as they started to sort of get into the messiness and get into the arguing, that's where it really became fun and juicy for me. So I, after one episode of season 2 of the White Lotus, see all the potential there, but still kind of want to see where they're actually going with it. The word from critics and stuff is this season's a lot more focused on sexual politics than like race politics, and they've have some intriguing aspects in terms of what they're alluding to with that first season. But I don't know, I'm still waiting to really dig in. It hasn't like caught me fully yet. So it's a fun show and the dynamics are great. I'm interested to see this side of Aubrey Plaza because she's playing a very difficult person and not in the way that you might assume given the Aubrey Plaza type of character. But yeah, I think Mike White is a very good writer, particularly of people and like just like of very ordinary types of people. So I'm definitely on board to keep watching this one week to week. And yeah, maybe we'll come back and talk about it a little once you've had a chance to catch up.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So what else have we got on the TV slate? I mean, we are not caught up on Andor, although I know a lot of people are liking
good things.
that. How much of Lord of the Rings have you watched?
There was a trailer that played before one of the movie theater outings that I did.
Cool. Yeah, I think I'm like 3 episodes into that, and I'm a little lost, but I want to dive deeper because I've heard a bunch of people say they enjoy that. You caught up with all of She-Hulk? Have you finished the first season?
Wrapped up everything down to that finale that I thought I was lucid dreaming in. I don't know if you had the chance to catch it, but
I still have not.
Oh, it is a finale, Zach. I'll keep this short and brief because I do want you to go in as empty as possible. She-Hulk has been a very fascinating show and has been a part of a lot of these big franchise. They're not even the tentpoles anymore, right? It's like we have distinctly split what is a tentpole and what is something that we're trying out. Hey, here is Kamala, right? That's Miss Marvel.
Right.
She needs a TV series because we're not going to spend the money on a movie. She will get a movie though. Once we combine her with 5 other people, though, because we ain't trusting any of these who we're 100% supporting as being their own little product, I guess. She-Hulk feels like another one of those where it's a series that's so much devoted into having a female lead who talks about being a female lead because she's a female lead, and then they don't even give money to the VFX. All I will say is that the ending thinks that it's funny to be meta and break the fourth wall about how they don't have a budget for VFX. And I don't find that funny.
Yeah,
I don't
particularly
think,
not given the recent
that'd be like
articles that have come
that'd
out.
be like coming on here. Yeah, especially with all the recent articles and the VFX people complaining. It'd be like us coming on here and then just going like, oh, well, we have a list of stuff that we're just going to name, and it's probably going to be the new to see because we haven't seen any of it. Anyways, here we go, and we're going to name them. Be happy we showed up. And look, there's a lot to dislike from that season. I don't know if they're going to make it a season 2. I really don't know what they're doing with the Marvel shows. But the ending is interesting because I've read it in a different Marvel character who's done what they do at the ending here, and I very much like it, and I still have that comic series. They decided to do it for She-Hulk, which I think will be fascinating because they now own both of these characters. She takes it for her series, and she makes a couple of jokes that I'm very curious to see how you take them. They're funny, but they're also not. Because again, it's trying to do a cop out of like, if we make fun of the how we lowballed our VFX artists and the people who worked on this, would that make it funny? And I'm like, no, I think you're just trying to justify the overlords who pushed you here. But it's the most intriguing episode of the entire season.
Interesting. I don't know. Yeah, it's just for a show that is kind of marketing itself as a comedy, like even more than the other Marvel stuff that has comedy in it, markets itself as comedy. The comedy was just not working for me, and that's been my big obstacle in trying to go back to the show. But
hey,
I mean,
just go straight to the ending.
I might
Just go straight
Honestly,
to
I
the
might.
ending. Also, a big character from, I'm going to say Daredevil plays a much bigger, more prominent part in one of the later episodes than I thought. like he's a big part. like he's back, bro. Like I'm not talking his cameo in Spider-Man. Like he comes back, bro.
Oh yeah, I mean I've heard some things about that.
So again, going on a show that breaks the fourth wall to tell you this isn't one of those where we're gonna have a new cameo every week and then proceeds to have a new cameo every week. Take that as you will.
Yeah.
But She-Hulk, not the best of the series that are out there. I will say I was never bored. I was very, very much frustrated multiple times. I tuned in every week for Tatiana Maslany. She's innocent. Y'all did her dirty a lot of the times. But Zach, watch that finale, if anything else, just because I want to know what you think about how they handled it.
All right, cool. We will come back to discuss that at some point. As long as we're on the subject of superhero stuff, why don't we get into
What is this, bro?
this piece of news that Bruce Wayne himself, let us know about in the live stream comments, in that one of our big favorites here on Intercut, Kristen Milioti, has been cast as the female lead in the new HBO Max Penguin show, which I believe is supposed to star Colin Farrell still. Art, what do you think about Kristen Milioti entering the DCU? The DCU? The DCU? DCU.
The TV DCU
TV
on HBO
DCU.
Max.
Yeah.
I like her. Should be interesting. I mean, she's been on HBO Max. It was Made for Love. Like, she's built a nice little home there, so that kind of makes sense. If this is supposed to be a prequel, I think that seems more fitting. I don't know if this will be before all of the prosthetics on Falcon's character, or I guess the Penguin's character. Because technically, she's not married to the Penguin. She'd be married to Falcone.
Well, it says that she's the daughter of Carmine Falcone, played by John Turturro, and Sophia is fighting with the Penguin for control of the city.
What?
So I guess she's like.
I mean, you
his
saw the
rival?
Batman, right? You know that would mean that she's related then to also another character.
Yeah.
So I find funny is like the daughter of Falcone and the sister to like another prominent character in the movie.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm curious. I'm just curious with it because you know how HBO, what they've done with Thrones, what they've done with several other ones, including this, they name like 5 different Batman spin-offs, and then they keep getting cut up little by little. So I don't know. I thought this was done. I thought the series was done. So to hear that they're still doing casting, sure. I even like the other casting that was right there about Yahya. That's crazy.
Oh yeah, the
That's
Wonder
Marvel
Man
check right there.
casting.
Yeah, that's crazy.
What is Wonder Man? I don't know anything about Wonder Man.
Yeah.
You know that much too? Cool.
For sure.
So
I mean, it's whatever they make him anyway.
It's our man from Top Dog Underdog though.
Candyman, everything. I love Yahya. That's great. Hey, that's a double check right there. He's Aquaman, villain, and now he's over here for Marvel.
Right.
That's good.
Yeah,
Good
and
for
he
both.
even shat on the Aquaman process on his way out the DC door too. So
He did. Well,
Yeah.
no, he didn't, bro. He's not that
Yeah,
guy.
he did.
He did it. He just said it's a fun time. He clowns around over there. That's it. That's all he said.
all right.
Bruce Wayne says it is the director of Mayor of Easttown who is attached. I believe they're talking about the Falcone.
Interesting.
So, sounds good.
All right. One last TV show here before we get to the new to see. Let's talk a little bit about Atlanta. I don't think we want to get too deep into it because we want to maybe do a bigger breakdown once the season ends. Because, man, it's the final season and it'll be gone in just 11 more days. Are you ready for Atlanta to be over?
Dude, I thought it was done. You told me, oh, there's 2 more episodes. I thought I had seen the finale. I already cried. I already did everything I needed to, man. I thought it was over.
I don't know if I could have accepted that last one as the finale for the whole season.
I could have accepted the one before that one. There's a certain look with 3 of the most prominent characters just having a getaway. I thought that was absolutely beautiful.
It does feel like they're doing a lot of final season stuff. Like even an earlier episode where Earn finally addresses sort of like his traumatic exit from college. You know, they're really kind of giving the fans what they were kind of hoping for.
And I think more than that, I think he's venting more than he's ever done. I think it's Childish Gambino talking about that little gold Grammy that he won, literally Song of the Year, the award that ends the ceremony and he wasn't there for. I think he comments on the Grammys in one of my favorite episodes in this season.
Mm-hmm.
I think he comments on his family. I think he comments on his loved ones. I think he comments on this idea of he's looking back at the Gambino that would end up becoming Gambino, before he would work with Disney, before he would do all these things. He's like the Gambino who was making it and now has to make the decision to move to LA. Like I feel the whole show of Atlanta is the precursor to him becoming popular. It's everything he went through before making the decision to get up and move from Atlanta. And I find that to be really beautiful, and I find it to be a very retrospective show, especially this season, of what it's been like to work with the big powerhouse that is Disney. I feel like he's commenting on that. That last episode that we got was like a video essay. And I think it's him kind of, I thought it was a very unique way to make it about him without making it about him. Almost fooled me for a second. I was over there on IMDb Googling. It's good. It's a great season. It is fantastic.
I definitely think they've raised their game again for season 4. So we'll get into it for sure a little bit more down the line. We should get to the nudity, but before we do, we would like to thank the Intercutie Plus patrons, those wonderful people supporting the show. They are Ewan, Julieta, Garrett, Tim, Elizabeth, Josh, Ashley, Michael, D.A., Matt, and Mr. Kobayashi, as well as our Academy level members Tushar, Cademan, Connor, Marion, Pete, not Preet, Sean, May, Ricky, and What's Matta. And of course, a super big thanks to the producer level patrons, Awkward and Udenveer. Thanks again for all the support, and a reminder that you too can become a member at patreon.com/intercutpod, where you can sign up for patron benefits like early access to our Intercut episode outlines, access to private channels on the Intercut Discord, access to some episodes early. I uploaded our next bracket already for the patrons, and you also get an invitation to our monthly patron Google meetings. This month's meeting happening after we live stream today, so not too late to get invited to come hang out with us and talk movies. You just got to sign up for as little as $1 a month. What are we going to talk about on the Patreon live hang today, Arturo? You have anything planned?
We got a couple of shows and stuff, but I mean, I wanted to do a horror little bracket, so we'll see if we can come up with something.
All right, so we will get into all of that in just a little bit. Once again, check out patreon.com/intercutpod. All right. Why don't we talk about what is new to see, the movies and shows hitting streaming and theaters over the weekend? Not a whole lot of options, because I think a lot of studios are clearing out, making a path for Black Panther: Wakanda Forever to absolutely dominate the box office next weekend. We still got this weekend, including an expansion of one of my favorite films of the year so far, and that is Armageddon Time, the latest from James Gray, a director who we like quite a bit from his work on films like Lost City of Z, to The Immigrant, to Ad Astra. Armageddon Time, his most personal film, a coming-of-age story. We talked about it a little bit with Austin on last week's stream. I think this is just a really beautiful look at shifting equity and the way that different cultures assimilate themselves in America. I don't know. I know that there are divided opinions when it comes to Armageddon Time, but I do think there's something very, very beautiful about this film, and I'm excited for you to catch it so we can talk about it again, Arturo.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Also out this weekend in limited release is The Box, La Caja, which is a film set in Mexico, but is Venezuela's submission to the 2023 Oscars. Art, did you have a chance to catch this one?
They sent it to me, so I have a link, and it's a movie link because as it expands in theaters, I think a week or two from now, it will be on Mubi.
Ooh. So yeah, another reason to sign up for Mubi, which we like. Calendar Girls, a film that we first caught at Sundance earlier this year, is playing in limited release in theaters in New York and Florida. I know it expands to LA next weekend. A interesting story about a group of older women coming together to perform as a dance troupe. Art, I think you liked this one a little more than I did when you saw it at Sundance. I think I was very tired by the time I got to this one.
Did not.
No?
It's fine.
Okay.
They want to be
It's
Calendar
fine.
Girls. It's cool.
Yeah.
They deserve their movie.
Yeah. Anyway, The Estate is probably the widest release in theaters this weekend, and it's got a pretty solid cast Toni Collette, Anna Faris, Kathleen Turner, David Duchovny, Rosemary DeWitt, and Ron Livingston among them. It's about two sisters attempting to win over their terminally ill mother in the hopes of becoming the beneficiaries of her estate. Don't really know too much about this one, but it's probably going to be my AMC A-list pick for the week. I gotta keep the A-list fresh, gotta keep using it, or it doesn't work anymore, right? Is that how it works?
I think that's how Rigo works.
Okay. Good Night Oppy is playing, I believe, in theaters. It will be on Amazon a couple weeks from now. This was a film that premiered in Toronto. It's a story about the rover Opportunity that did a 90-day mission on Mars. Seemed interesting. Has some good reviews, some mixed opinions, but I'm gonna probably catch this one when it does make its way to Amazon Prime Video. Another one that I was curious about this weekend is I'm Totally Fine, which stars a couple people that I like quite a bit in Jillian Bell and Natalie Morales. Posters indicate some kind of like alien sort of activity going on. I don't know. Maybe we'll get a screener for this one and we can talk about it in a little bit. Art, do you know anything about the King's Horseman?
No.
Looks really interesting. I know it played a couple festivals, got a lot of very like striking imagery.
Right.
I believe that. Sorry?
This is one of the tribes in Woman King.
Oh, there we go. So a little added resonance. This one is going to be a Netflix movie not too long from now. Actually, yeah, Friday it's going to be available on Netflix. So something to check out at home. Art, do you know anything about Nocebo?
What's this?
This is the new film directed by Lorcan Finnegan.
Oh, okay.
The
I've seen the
person
poster
behind Vivarium, which I believe you gave a pretty strong review for last year. You have Ava Green and Mark Strong starring here.
Green?
Yeah. I don't know. I'm curious about this one.
Yeah, I'm curious too. I know Vivarium is one that intrigued a lot of people. A lot of people came out angry. A lot of people came out annoyed.
Yeah.
But I thought he had a very interesting perspective. I like his perspective as a director. So this one looks pretty easy breezy, 96 minutes. Have this on my radar.
Selena Gomez, My Mind and Me, another documentary coming to Apple TV Plus.
Playing at AFI, bro.
Is it really?
Yeah, like I was like, why is there so much push on this? And I saw I had the AFI tag on it. I was like, all right, then I guess there you go. Apple needed the Billie Eilish doc, but for this time around, and it looks a little bit more. I hate to use the word honest, but as compared to Demi's docs,
right?
This one definitely looks like it's trying to look back at her career. I don't know how in depth it will be. I really like the Billie one. We'll see if this one's able to do it for Selena, because obviously she's been around for a minute, dude.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be the big doc looking at all of her ups and downs.
Also out this weekend, not just in theaters, but available on VOD as well, is the South by Southwest film Soft and Quiet. Blumhouse ended up picking this one up. I remember you being not so sold when you saw it at South by.
This just got a Gotham Award, and I was like, damn, I add that one to my list. And then I find out, it's this one. They got a new poster to it, which looks kind of decent.
Yeah.
The whole thing is meant to be one long take. That's on my alley. You have a group of women who have issues with another group of women because there is something that divides them and makes them look different. But the group of women who you are following just so happens, it's very important to know, just so happen to be sisters of the Aryan culthood or whatever else. They're white supremacists. Nice. The movie is directed, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, by a woman of color, a Latina, I'm pretty sure. The movie was just not for me, bro. It was a little. We were describing this last week about like a movie can be perfectly made. It could have all these little things going for it, but there's a certain degree where you're just like, I just don't like hanging out with these people. And this is a movie where the whole vibe is successfully that I'm hanging out with them, and I successfully want to get the hell out of there. And that was me the first time that I saw it. I saw a lot of people coming out liking it. They saw something in it I didn't.
Yeah.
The Gotham saw something in it I didn't.
Yeah.
I can't even really recommend the long take with it because it's one of those where it's just like, you can cut here. We don't need to actually see you hold the camera for this long, but you're doing it in a very dark scene because you've committed to the long take. That's just me. nonetheless, they should be there should be some links out there. So Zach, if you see it, and if the Blumhouse aficionados see it, let me know, because maybe you disagree with me and
I'm curious
something you
about it
like.
at the very least,
Yeah,
even
be
if I am a
curious about it.
little bit on on edge because of your not so strong recommendation. But one that I think we can give a much stronger recommendation to that we did see at some
Oh, it's
festivals.
been so long.
Something in the Dirt, the latest
Let's
from the
interview them.
boys, Aaron Moorhead, and just I actually should reach out for them. We've been a fan of Moorhead and Benson, the various films they've done, and I think this is like a really great version of the thing they do best, which is some guys find a weird thing, and it's really cool. It's definitely a COVID movie in terms of its scope. It's really mostly contained to this apartment and a very limited cast, but the ways in which they keep finding new creative turns in this story I found to be really cool. I love the dynamic between them. I just want to see this one again. It's been a little while.
Yeah, if you are a fan of their movies, this is it up to 11. They are always really good, whether it's them in front of the camera or even having different actors.
Mm-hmm.
Their camaraderie, the way that they co-direct, their brotherhood that they have, this is the epitome of that movie. It is like the most meta that they have been to a degree, and I thought it was very special. I thought it felt like a home video that they were able to bring to life. And yeah, I just see bigger and bigger things happening for them. Obviously, they were able to work with Marvel, and yeah, bro, like we've been watching their movies for a minute, so shout out to them.
Mm-hmm. And then finally, out this weekend in theaters is Utama, a film that was an award winner back at Sundance. It is now Bolivia's submission for Best International Feature. You know, this is one of the ones that I think was kind of a tough watch at Sundance because we're so busy cramming movies in and depriving ourselves of meals and sleep that when you get to a film that has as much patience as this one does, that is completely unhurried to give you its plot, it can feel like excruciatingly slow. But after watching it and just sitting on it, it's got a lot of interesting things going on. This story of this elderly couple kind of living this punishing lifestyle and the grandson that wants to take them away from it. I think this is a really good movie.
Mm-hmm. I would when we get to Chicago, there was another one called Return to Dust that I've been pitching to you. That's also had that, like, are they very diligent workers, or are they just being abused and used in this turmoil out in the desert? Utama was another one where we had seen it at the end of the fest. We were already gone from our screening room, so for a movie that really relies on its landscapes, we saw it in like an Airbnb little tiny TV that we connected our computer to, so it also didn't
Mhm.
do it justice. So that's definitely one that I would want to catch back up on, especially with it being Bolivia submission.
Absolutely. All right, so that is what's coming out this weekend. Let's talk about our picks for the week. Art, what are the movies, shows, whatever that people should be catching up on this week?
Pretty simple. I got some to stay home, and if you go out, if you're staying home in terms of a series, it's got to be Atlanta. Atlanta season 4, I think, is everything that season 3 might have not been for some people, and I think this is delivering on all cylinders. I think every character who you followed since the beginning gets a really bright episode, and I think it's been fantastic. I'm okay with it already being over because I think it's delivered. So to know that there's 2 more episodes, that just makes me more happy. I think it's been a great finale. So if it ended now, I would be happy.
Good.
Atlanta, please, please, please watch it. Go back and watch the older seasons if you haven't. It is definitely worth it. If you're also staying at home and you wanted to watch a movie, there's this little documentary that I think is one of my top 5 documentaries of the year, titled
Oh.
Pez Outlaw. This is a film about the guy who claims, I'm the reason why when you get cereal, there's only one per household, because he was able to create this entire like syndicate selling Pez toys and Pez dispensers, and that the Pez Corporation deemed him the Pez outlaw. But on top of that, he's also a guy who knows story and who realizes that he couldn't have a regular documentary made. He has been waiting for a doc crew to tell his story because it needed to be the right one, and it needed to be the story of him and his partner and how they got away with it all. And it is absolutely fantastic. Pez Outlaw, definitely put that one on your radar. But if you're going out into theaters, as I am, a movie that I haven't seen yet and has been on my radar for a long time, Banshees of Inisherin. I hope
Yes.
I'm saying it correctly. It has gotten its limited release right now in like 2 theaters in Chicago. It should be expanding in more weeks to come. So I want to have it on people's radar because I was a big fan of his previous movie. And as I've heard, I know we had the Karst boys on here. They were talking about how it's almost him reflecting back on how Three Billboards was received. And what you've told me about it being a friendship movie. And I just love his dry Irish humor.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. So that's the one thing that's gonna get me out of the theaters is out to the theaters is Banshees. So Banshees, Atlanta, Pez Outlaw.
I love Banshees of Inisherin. It's only in 58 theaters
I think you're
nationwide
gonna say
right now.
40x. I said, how in the hell is that in 40x?
Feels like it sometimes with those windswept vistas, but I cannot wait for more people to see that movie because it's absolutely one of my favorites of the year, and looking forward to discussing it a little more with you here on Intercut. As far as my picks, I am going to recommend one more time. I feel like we've done it a few weeks here in a row, but last weekend, Tar expanded nationwide. It is in more theaters than ever. People are getting Tar fever, Tar on Tar. It's just everybody's ready for Tar Wars, So I am going to go watch it again because that is one of the most interesting, detail oriented, deep diveable movies of the year. Caitlin still hasn't seen it yet, so I'll be going back and watching Tar again.
Nice.
Also going to recommend Armageddon Time as that continues to expand into more theaters. I think it's also only in like 8 theaters so far. So on Friday, hopefully it'll be somewhere closer to you. Something in the Dirt. I don't know how big that release is going to be, but it is one of the weirdest, scrappiest movies of the year. And I think it's a really fun time. So I'd highly recommend Something in the Dirt. If you're at home, I'm totally fine. Jillian Bell and Natalie Morales are very, very fun to watch. And if they're opposite of each other, I can't imagine the movie's that bad. Maybe it is. I don't want to guarantee. I haven't seen it. I haven't even seen the trailer, but that's one that I'm going to catch for sure. And then I'll throw on the White Lotus as well because it's the first season is a lot of fun, and it looks like season 2 has set itself up to deliver a lot of similar pleasures. I don't know. It's gonna hopefully be a good time out in Italy. Always fun to get a little mini vacation from your couch, right? Okay, so those are our picks for the week. But I think that's about all for this edition of the Weekend Must Watch. You can catch more from me, Zach Shevich, by following me on Twitter, Instagram, or Letterboxd at ZShevich. That's ZShev as in Viagra, something that seems to be recurring on the new season of The White Lotus, ICH. And check out my YouTube and TikTok channels at Multiplex Show. Arturo, where can people find more from you?
You can find me over at LME Explain on Twitter, on YouTube, on Letterboxd, and every week here on the Intercut podcast, running away from Terrifier the Clown, Art the Clown.
You can listen to every episode of the Intercut podcast on iTunes, Anchor, Spotify, whatever your favorite podcatcher is. I like Overcast, and then make sure you subscribe not just to the audio feed, but to the video feed as well on youtube.com/intercutpod. Where you can watch our bright smiling faces as we break down the latest in entertainment. Find new episodes of the Intercut Weekend Must Watch streaming on our YouTube channel every Monday at 3 p.m. Eastern. And please leave us a comment, like the video, comment on the video. I said that already. Consider heading over to iTunes to give us that much requested 5-star review. Shout out to those of you who have. We shouted out Cece from the Bay earlier. Shouted out Kayla Allen before, but one more time I'll say she left a review that said this is the best movie podcast. These guys are amazing. They are very reliable and always have a good recommendation for movies and TV shows. 100% would recommend to a friend. Thanks, guys, for all you do. Thank you, Kayla, for your 5-star review. And thank you to the people of Nigeria for putting us on the TV and film podcast shouts out there. Like our Facebook, our Instagram, our Twitter pages. Support our Patreon. You can find all of them at Intercut Pod, and you'll get updates throughout the week from me, from Art, from all the guests we feature here on Intercut. Thanks again for tuning in, and until next time, just because Arturo is also Art doesn't mean you can call him Art the Clown. Wait, that's the wrong one.